Alright, what is up folks? So in this video I'm going to talk about the population collapse. But the population is not collapsing worldwide. For example, worldwide, the Muslim population is rapidly increasing. In fact, by 2060, Islam will become the #1 religion in the world. Why is that happening? Well, it's very obvious, right? In the West, you want everybody to be gay. I'm sorry, that's just reality. I live in Canada, for example. Canada is constantly ranked as one of the most friendly LGBTQ plus countries in the world. So first of all, you want everybody to become gay. Then number two, you want every single woman to become an independent career woman. You're telling all these women to be girl bosses. The fact that they don't need to get married, they don't need to have children, they don't need men. So soon all of these Western women, they will become wives to Muslim men around the world. They will have to start reading the Quran. They will be forced to follow the Sharia law. By the way, I don't have anything against Islam or Christianity or Judaism, but I'm going to be a little bit more serious in this video. This video is going to be longer, and this is more of a lecture style video. I'm going to tell you guys the severe consequences of the population collapse in the West, okay? First of all, let's look at this. Let's look at fertility rates around the world, okay? The replacement level for human civilization is 2.11 children per woman. Every single civilization throughout history that has had a birth rate that's below this level, every single one has gone to become extinct. So let's look at it collectively. For the European Union, right now it's at 1.38. United States is at 1.62. It's much higher than the European Union or Canada, but still it is well below replacement level. Canada is at 1.33. It's important to mention that even these numbers are inflated because obviously immigrants and refugees and migrants, they will on average have way more children than native white Europeans. So all of the white people, they have essentially stopped having babies. Let's look at Asia, okay? Japan actually does not have the lowest birth rate in the world. Japan's at 1.26. For mainland China, it's 1.08. For Taiwan, it's 0.87. For Hong Kong, it's 0.77. South Korea has the record for the lowest fertility rate in the world at 0.72. And this is one argument I constantly hear from people that in Canada and the United States. People saying that, okay, if you all stop having children, okay, there's easy solution. We already see at Walmarts and grocery stores and McDonald's, right? You just use self-checkout counters. This way you don't have to employ as many cashiers, right? That's where you're wrong. How the hell are you going to tax robots? How the hell are you going to tax self-checkout counters? Do you not see what's happening? Okay, as people get older and older and older, that means that there will be more people that's retired, that they're collecting their pension and old age security. That means that there will be less people paying taxes. So that's issue number one. So let's look at China, for example. So in 2023, China's population decreased by more than 2 million. And their population collapse is just starting. Because right now, China's fertility rate is at 1.08. So if they keep this up, roughly by 2100, China's population will shrink from 1.42 billion to 700 million. And people say that, okay, if China's population goes back to 700 million, it will still be the second most populous country in the world, right? And China's population of 700 million, that means that they just go back to the levels of 1960. No, see, you're wrong again. Schools don't teach this anymore. Let's use some critical thinking. Back in 1960, the average age of a Chinese citizen was 18 years old. 18 years old, okay? However, if China keeps going on this rate, right now the average age of a Chinese citizen is about 38.6 years old, okay? But however, if this birth rate continues to collapse, by 2100, the average age of a Chinese citizen will be 60 years old. 60. By the way, the universal retirement age for Chinese women is 55, okay? For most Chinese men, it's anywhere between 60 to 65. See? Men don't complain. These policies were put in place by men. For example, right now in China, the life expectancy for a Chinese woman is 82. So on average, a Chinese woman gets to enjoy 27 years of retirement with full social security and full pension. However, for a man, the retirement age is anywhere between 60 to 65. Let's just say it's 62. However, the life expectancy for a Chinese male is only 77. So on average, a Chinese male only gets to enjoy 12 years of retirement. And this is a privilege the elite Chinese man has created for Chinese women. But women will always find something to complain about, even though these privileges that they enjoy were actually created by rich elite Chinese males. So what will happen when the average age of a Chinese citizen gets to 60? That means that over 50% of the population will be retired. So if almost everybody is retired and almost nobody is working, who is going to be contributing to their 401k, to their old age security, to their pension? Okay, where's that money going to come from? China is going to face a severe budget shortfall. So how did the fertility rate get so low, okay? So right now, let's look at Canada, okay? Have a look at this graph. Unbelievable. Back in 1960, Canada's fertility rate was at 3.8 children per woman, okay? That's when Canada's fertility rate peaked. That's nearly double the replacement level. What happened in 1960? Health Canada was the first country in the world to fully approve the usage of birth control pills for all Canadian women. So from 1960 and on, every single Canadian woman had access to birth control pills for free. And in fact, since the 1960s, birth control became very popular worldwide. And throughout the 1960s, in the United States, in Australia, New Zealand, and in all of the European Union, birth control became widely available to all of the women to be used for free. And you see a dramatic drop in the fertility rate. And what else happened in the 1960s? In 1969, Canada decriminalized abortion, okay, as of 1969. And look at the consequences it has on the drop in the birth rate. Right now, many people are saying that, we're not having enough babies. But look at the United States. You're performing 1 million abortions a year. 1 million abortions a year. By the way, almost 40% of it, in fact, 38.8% of it comes from black women. How come those black lives don't matter? You're talking about 388,000 black babies being aborted every single year in the United States alone. And how come nobody has ever brought up this issue in the mainstream media? What else also happened in 1969, okay? Canada allowed no-fault divorce. Do you know what no-fault divorce means? It means that a woman, for any kind of reason, can just say that, you know what, I'm not happy in my marriage and I'm ending everything. That means that a man can bring 100% of the financial assets into the relationship and the marriage. A man can buy the house, the car, he can pay all the bills, he can provide everything, he can pay for his children's tuition. And if at any moment the woman says that she's not happy, then that means that that man has everything to lose in that marriage. He will lose custody of his children. He will lose his wife. His house will be put up for sale by the government. Ever since Canada allowed the no-fault divorce in 1969, the divorce rate in Canada actually jumped by over 500% over the next decade. Okay, you can look up divorce rates in Canada. Prior to the 1970s, Canada's divorce rate was actually extremely low. It was only roughly around 10%. It's only when Canada allowed no-fault divorce, that's when the divorce rate skyrocketed to roughly 50% to what it is today. You see, when all of these white people stopped having children, when all of these white people stopped getting married, there's a huge issue, right? That's why these countries like Canada, like the United States, like Australia, like the collective West, that's why they're taking so many immigrants and refugees. Because what the hell are you supposed to do? All the white people literally stopped having children. For example, if you look at the Canada population census in 1981, okay, white people in Canada still made up roughly 95% of the population. Immigrants only made up roughly 5%. However, back in 1981, Canada's fertility rate was already down to 1.6, okay, is well below the replacement level. Now, let me pull up this graph of South Korea, the country with the lowest fertility rate worldwide. And I posted a 30-minute video on this before. This is due to the feminist gender war in South Korea, where man and woman basically are at war with each other. That's why there are so few family formations, okay? So, look at this. Back in 1960, before birth control became a thing, South Korea actually had one of the highest fertility rates worldwide. They had 6.3 children per woman. 6.3. Now it's at 0.72. Do you know what it means? Okay, do you guys know what this means? This means that in 2024, today, okay, in South Korea, there are 9 times as many seniors, okay, in South Korea versus South Korea back in 1960. 9 times as many seniors. That means that there are 9 times more people who are collecting pensions versus people who are working. Do you not see the issue with this? Let's go back to Canada. Let's look at this graph. This is the expected healthcare expenditure per Canadian citizen. This is from Statistics Canada, okay? This is an official verified government source, okay? As you can see that as you climb the age group ladder, as you get older and older and older, okay, you will inevitably get sick. And then when you get sick, you have to go to the doctor, you have to go to the hospital, and they have to provide healthcare for you. So what's going to happen as Canada gets older and older and older? That means that the federal budget has to keep focusing focusing on these older people, these seniors, and these healthcare programs. Okay, that means they have less and less money to focus on young people because there are fewer people working and there are few people paying taxes. For example, this is Canada's healthcare budget in 2023. It's a whopping $344 billion. Okay, this is 13.3% of Canada's GDP. And as Canada's population keeps getting older, Canada will be forced to make budget cuts in order to accompany these increasing number of senior citizens. So you see, $344 billion, that's 13.3% of Canada's GDP. It's gone to these 65 plus year old seniors, okay? It's to provide them with healthcare, with social security and their pension. And look at the budget for Canada's education, okay? It's only at $85 billion. Okay, this is a fraction of Canada's healthcare budget. So this means that schools are receiving less and less funding. This is why so many schools are going bankrupt in Canada. For example, Queen's University in Kingston. Right now in September, they're facing a whopping $48 million budget deficit because they're simply receiving less and less funding from the federal government. So you see, everything's gonna be harder for this generation because government is focusing less on its youths and has to focus more on the elders. And this is a hint for upcoming video. I'm going to talk about how Canada's international student program has completely destroyed Canada. Let's look at this, okay? This is the ratio of the number of people that's retired and collecting pension versus the number of people that's working in Canada. And these two lines compare Canada versus other OECD countries, okay? Back in 1960, before birth control came into effect, for every single person that's retired that's collecting pension in Canada, there were on average 7 people working and paying taxes to contribute to these seniors' pensions. So 7 to 1. However, fast forward to 2023, do you know what's the ratio today? It's 2.4 to 1. That means that for every single person that's retired and collecting pension, there's only 2.4 people working. Do you know what this means? That means that for this generation, for millennials, for Gen Z, and Gen Alpha, that means that you guys are being taxed 3 times as much versus the boomers and Gen X. And that is 100% fact. This is once again from Statistics Canada. Real numbers don't lie. Okay, the reason why everybody's so broken in this generation is because the previous generation, they had the greatest wealth transfer in the history of humanity. And they screwed everything up because they all stopped getting married. They all started living the dink life. They all stopped having children. And then now that, all the Western countries are getting older and older and older. So these countries, Canada, United States, the European Union, they have no choice but to tax the shit out of the young people so they can pay for the pensions and the healthcares of these old people. And this is why, just like I mentioned before, any civilization throughout human history, anytime if a civilization had a birth rate that was below 2.1 children per woman, none of these civilizations has ever survived. Because we have a society where young people are having less and less children, and we have a bunch of old people who cannot work, who cannot pay taxes, but you still have to provide them with pension and healthcare. This will doom the younger generation, and that is how a civilization collapses inside out. Because what happens when there are less people paying taxes, the government will be forced to print more money to make for a budget shortfall. And what happens when government prints money like crazy? It increases the interest rate. What happens when the government increases the interest rate? That means that your mortgage payment, your rent, your credit card bills, your line of credit bills will keep getting larger every single payment cycle. Okay, this means that young people will be forced to take on more debt. That means that young people will become more broke. And just look at the United States, the national debt is closing in on 35 trillion US dollars. Okay, and what happens when a country keeps printing money, and at some point you're going to hit a debt ceiling. And what happens when you hit the debt ceiling, where you cannot go up anymore? You have to default your debt. Imagine this, if United States, the #1 economy in the world, $28 trillion a year, if they defaulted their debt, okay? This will mean a global economic catastrophe, okay? Similar to the October 1929 stock market crash. The world will be heading into a great depression. That is the severe consequences when people stop having children. And one thing, I find it quite interesting. People keep bringing out the point that, people are not having babies because things are getting so expensive. Well, yes, that's one element. However, look at this. Which party is more anti-human? Which party is more pro to the destruction of the human civilizations as a whole? Look at the fertility rate by US states. All of the top states with the highest fertility rates in the United States are Republican states. Right now, South Dakota stands at #1 at 2.06, which is still below replacement level. Look at all the blue Democratic states, okay? In all of these states, all of the women have stopped getting married and having children. Geez, I wonder who is pushing this agenda. See, this is what people around people say, oh, if you're broke, you can't afford to have children. However, roughly 70% of the wealth in America belongs to the blue states, okay? See, for the red states, for the most part, women are still having children. You still see states with fertility rates of, 2.06, you see 1.9, 1.8, at least they're still close to replacement level. It's states like New York, like Massachusetts, like California, like Washington, like Oregon, okay? These states have fertility rates from anywhere between 1.1 to 1.3. All of these liberal women in these blue states, they all have chosen to be career women. They have all chosen to become queer, to become non-binary, to become two-spirited, to become cat parents. It's all of the blue states that's pushing this agenda, okay? The Democratic Party is the ones who are pushing this agenda. And who is behind the Democratic Party? Okay, I have a lot to say about this. I will cover more during my election special that's coming up. So, ladies and gentlemen, okay, if you're watching this, especially if you're a millennial or if you're a Gen Z, okay, I want you guys to understand something. The struggle for this generation is real. Everything is harder for this generation. There's no doubt about it. And the fertility rate is not bouncing back up anytime soon. In fact, I don't think it will. Christianity is well on its way to its downfall. And Islam will rise up to lead the future of this world. And if you guys are asking me, so what is the best solution to this? I mentioned before, I don't think the number one issue is necessarily feminism. At least I think in Asia, for example, in China, I don't think feminism is the number one issue. The number one issue is that, record number of women are going to universities. A record number of women are getting white-collar jobs. A record number of women are going to STEM fields. They're becoming successful career women. They're becoming lawyers. They're becoming doctors. They're becoming engineers. And I mentioned this before. Women will not marry or procreate with men who make less money than them. They will not marry or procreate with men who are less educated than them. Okay, that's just a biological fact. Unless we can reverse this trend, unless we can give all the good paying jobs for men, okay, this trend will continue. This birth rate collapse will continue. And this will mean that there's going to be more and more stress on the younger generation. A lot of people will hate me for saying that, but, I'm just telling the truth because every single woman out there, when you ask them, they all say that, I want my man to be 6 feet. I want my man to make 6 figures. I want my man to have 6 packs, 6 inches. I want my man to have a house in the suburbs. He's got to have that 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom home with a fully furnished basement. He's got to have a family van. He's got to have a Mercedes. He's got to be able to spoil me. He's got to be able to take me shopping every single weekend. I like going on vacations. I like to go into fancy restaurants. I like to eat filet mignons and butter poached lobsters. Ladies, how is a man supposed to provide all of these things for you if you can't give all the good paying jobs to men? Okay, if you yourself become, say, a successful career woman, if you're becoming the doctors, if you're becoming the girl bosses, if you're becoming the successful entrepreneurs, okay, for every single successful career woman, this will inevitably create another incel in this world. And that is the vicious cycle, okay? And this video is already getting too long, but I will definitely come back to this topic. I hope this video has helped you guys with your understanding of the population collapse, okay? Because this is a very serious topic and it's going to have severe consequences for the next generation.